What's good, everyone? Today we're here for another version of the power rankings for the end of May and a little bit of June as well. It's currently the midpoint of the season, so this is sort of the mid-season power rankings. Now, starting things off pretty easily in 18th position, we've obviously got the West Coast Eagles. They're clearly by far the worst side in the competition at the moment, and they have been for, I would say, the last 5 or 6 weeks, but yeah, I mean, I thought, they might have been a little bit better, shown some signs. They haven't shown really any signs in the last month and a bit. Their lowest losing margin in the last 5-6 games, 46 points. And they lost to the bottom side at the time by 116 points when I actually tipped West Coast to win it. They were almost as bad as what Fitzroy were in the late 90s when they obviously had their final years in the AFL. Yeah, it's concerning for West Coast, and if it wasn't for Oscar Allen, one of their shining lights, they'd probably be a 3-goal worst side. Like right now, there is not much light at the end of the tunnel for West Coast. They're going to be down here for quite a while. We move next up to 17th position on the power rankings. This side also staying the same, a little bit better. We've got North Melbourne. North have had a good last 3 weeks of footy without picking up a result. I think they've probably done enough for the fans to give them hope for the end of the season that they're actually going in the right path. I think they are. I do think North have one of the best young crops of talent in the competition. They just haven't been finding the results, and I think the results will soon come. It's still obviously a bottom 2-3 side right now, but not going nearly as bad as West Coast. Another side that I'm not going to change in 16th position, we've got Hawthorn. Hawthorn have been, I guess, a bit of a mixed bag this season, the Hawks, or the last 5 weeks particularly. They started pretty poorly. They lost to Freo by like 70, which sort of kickstarted their run of form. But sort of since then, in the last 3 weeks, they've certainly picked up, more impressive results, particularly that West Coast game. Yeah, whatever. It was against West Coast, but they were bottom leading into that game, and they won by 116 points. And then they backed it up against St Kilda. I really didn't think they'd actually bring up the heat as much as they did against us. Like, they were a 30-plus point better side than us. They've got a really bright future on the likes of McKenzie, Ward, Newcomb, the likes of those players. Like, they're going to be a good side the next couple of years, I reckon. The Hawks, they're going to be moving up a few more spots, I think. And this rebuild at the moment is looking maybe a bit quicker than what we once thought. So, yeah, I think Hawthorn are going okay. A side is certainly not doing better than I thought. Certainly underachieving, and lucky maybe not even to be down a couple more spots. We've got Carlton. They've dropped 7 positions from the last video we've had, and they're currently on a loss streak, I think, of 5 in a row now. And I just want to have a look at their last 4 games and just highlight their scores, and they just reflect the lack of scoring that they currently possess. So they've got 59 against the Dogs, 57 against Collingwood, 51 against Sydney, and 44 against Melbourne. That's actually their lowest score under Michael Voss, who right now is one of the coaches under the most pressure at the moment, and for right reasons. They've been just playing awfully, the Blues. They're probably the most boring side to watch, I'd say, at the moment. So just stop giving them the primetime games for the Blues. Seriously, put them on the Sunday 4:40 p.m. time slot. None of their plays are currently performing. I think they're all digressing, to be honest with you, such as Cripps, obviously Mackay. And they're not executing the game plan. Their game plan right now is just way too slow. And then when they do actually attack the corridor, they do actually find a way to get goals, but they don't do it often enough, Carlton, right now. And they're playing like a bottom 4 side, which is unfortunate. I thought they'd honestly be a top 4 side this year, or pushing at least, but 15th for mine, the power rankings. Now, we move next to the side that I've gotten 14th. This side's dropped a couple of spots, but, not harsh, but it doesn't really reflect how I think they've been in the last 5 weeks. They've certainly been, a decent side. I've said it before, a plucky side where they've been competitive. They just haven't quite picked up the results. They just haven't gone over the line. And we saw it again in a few games against the Dogs, against the Saints, where I think they were really good. They challenged some decent sides for almost 4 quarters, but then the last bit at the end, they just had maybe a 5-10 minute patch where another side gets on top for a little bit longer. So they've had a chance to possibly be on more wins and maybe even be contention for finals. So I don't think they're a bottom 4 ranked side this year. I think they're going a lot better than what a lot of people thought that the Giants produced this season. I like what they're doing under Adam Kingsley. They look like they've got a bit of a promising future ahead of them, the Giants, right now. We move to 13th position, and this side has gone up a couple of spots, 1 or 2 spots from the last video. I can't really remember. We've got Richmond. Started to pick up a few more respectable results in the last month, a bit of footy to maybe not give themselves any chance of finals, but just to give them something to work off for next season. Really good win against the Cats when they were on the back of 5 wins in a row. I know that was a bit of a depleted Cats side, but they played really good footy. They're probably their best game of the year. Should have beaten the Bombers. They had a decent game against the Power. So many close results where I just think with the Richmond side, they're pretty much in every game they play, bar a couple this season. And it was really good to see him finally pick up a result, for Dimmer against the Giants. Obviously, the end of an era after Dimmer has departed, but I think the Tigers can still do okay and do some decent things this season. Maybe not make finals, but I think they'll turn things around relatively quickly. They won't be too bad for too long. We move to the 12th position for my power rankings. This side has certainly fallen from grace after a grand final appearance last year. We've obviously got Sydney. They've fallen one spot. Again, an average month. Like, they've picked up a couple wins, but lucky wins, especially that North one. Like, they got out of jail in that game with that free kick in the last quarter. I really don't think many Swans fans will be too happy with the way they played. But they were good against Carlton, especially in that second half. I thought Carlton had the better of them in that first half, but that second half, Sydney at the SCG, they took the game away and they controlled it and got a good win. And I can see them maybe rebounding after the bye and turning their season around possibly. But yeah, I do think Sydney might be able to do a few things, but they've certainly been a shell of their former selves. The Swans, really poor game plan. Their players just aren't performing, and their injuries aren't helping for the Swans, but I have them in 12th at the moment. Next up, a side that certainly has been better than the Swans, that deserves to be up a little bit more. We've got the Gold Coast Suns. They've gone up 2 positions from the last video that I've done, and are looking like a side that could actually be playing final this year. Could this side be ready for finals? I said last year that they, I think, could make it this year. It's just with the competition around it this year, a really competitive top 8 to make. Whether that'll happen or not, I guess we'll just have to wait. But so far, so good. I'm liking what I've seen from the Suns, especially without, I guess, superstar and Took Miller. They've been able to do so well. They could have beaten the D's. We forget about that game. They smashed the Eagles. I think they've just had the one bad game since I last done this video, and that was against the Lions in the Q Clash. But it was really impressive to see them get those last 2 wins and sort of bank on something, because I think consistency is an issue for the Suns. They get a win, get a loss. They've now got a chance to possibly go 4 on the trot with Carlton after the bye and Hawthorn with good wins against the Dogs and the Crows that they just had. I think the Suns are in a decent position, could go up, but also could go down. I just really don't know with the Suns at the moment. Now, this side has fallen 6 spots since the last video. Maybe a little bit too harshly, I'm judging this side. I've got Geelong in 10th. Maybe harsh. They could maybe build up to 9th or 8th, especially after the win against the Dogs. I thought that was really impressive. I didn't think they were going to win that game with the midfield depletion that they've got at the moment. But really, if you take that away, they've had a pretty average month of footy. Bad loss against Richmond, who are going poorly. A bad loss against the Dockers, who at the time weren't going so great either. And then you just can't be losing the GWS at home. That was just a must-win game for the Cats. And that, at the end of that, they could actually come back to cost them a top 8 spot. Now, next up in 9th position, this side dropping 2 spots. And I think I'm a little bit maybe harsh on them, but I want to be harsh on them for a reason. We've got Adelaide in 9th. When they play at home and when they play their best footy, when they just bring out the pressure, intensity and scoring power, they're one of the best sides in the competition, a top 4 side, 100%. But then when they're away from home and just unable to get their game going their way, they look like a bottom 6 side, and that's sort of been the case this month. They're either a top 6 side, a bottom 6 side. What are they? I'm not too sure. They've been, loss, win. So in the last 5 games, 3 losses, 2 wins. A really bad one against the Dogs. A disappointing one against the Suns when they were up for the first bit of the game. The way that they were able to beat the Lions in that game and the Saints, they were so good. They look so good against the Saints, so well drilled. It's such a tough one for the Crows. I think they're going to make the finals here, but I think this is a season where they've just got to... Continuity is a bit of an issue for them, and I think they've got to work on that in the coming years. But I think I like certainly the way the Crows are going about it, but they just need to be a little bit better away from home. Now, for the 8th spot, I do have, going up 1 spot, the Essendon Football Club. Yeah, Essendon, I think, are going to make finals this year. You look at their run after the bye, it's actually pretty good. It's pretty favourable, and they've not been at their best, but they've just been getting the wins, and because they're getting the wins, I have to have them up a little bit higher. They had a patch of form, right? Obviously, the Bombers were they playing the top sides and just not quite getting over the line. But I thought against Port Adelaide, they were okay. Certainly against Brisbane in the first half, they were okay. Bad second half. And it's seriously impressive winning against Richmond to get the win there. I guess you can't say too much about their last 2 results. 2 wins against West Coast and North. I mean, that North game, they could have lost. The Bombers, whilst they haven't played the best teams, are 3 in a row. The Crows... They're 2 losses of the last 3, so that's why I have them ahead of the Crows at the moment. Now we head to 7th spot, dropping down a couple of spots and being a little bit disappointing in my opinion. We've got my side, the Saints, a side that I could see slipping out of the 8 this year. I really can after what we saw last season. I think the holes are starting to show. I think right now the opposition sides are starting to do their homework on the Saints and Ross Lyon because we just haven't really been the same side since the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. We just haven't really had a game where we've been really that dominant in it. Even when we beat North, we've beaten the Giants. That was the worst win of all time. The Saints win against the Roos, and then that Giants win We had to grind it out. I thought we were pretty good, but we could have been better. Very disappointing against Adelaide, but arguably more disappointing against Hawthorn. I'm not really sure what's going on. I guess maybe just that bye can reset things in the season. They're, fifth on the AFL ladder, but they're not playing like a fifth position side. They're currently, honestly, playing like a side not in the 8. They're going to stay 7th because we've got to reward form, and they're still 5th. Next up, we've got in 6th position, going up 4 spots, but possibly being a chance to be in the top 4 if they would have pinched a couple more results. We've got the Western Bulldogs. They've certainly been an impressive side this season, that's for sure. I think they had a win streak of 5 or 6 at one stage in the season. That game against the Crows was extremely impressive, the way they won the ball around the midfield and just dominated from there. And the clearances, they should have won that game by more than 10 goals. But why I don't have them any higher than 6th is they've let a couple of games slip. I think they certainly could have and maybe even should have beaten the Suns with the way the Suns were going. And then the Cats game, I really thought the Dogs were going to win. But the Cats in the last quarter just took the game by the scruff of their neck to get over the line against the Dogs, which is a little bit disappointing because they're sort of back now into the pack. If the Dogs would have won at least one of those 2 games, they would have definitely risen in the rankings, maybe to 5th, maybe even 4th. We head now to 5th position. You'd be watching and going, where the fuck have you put Fremantle? And tell you what, I might be crazy with this one, but I've actually gone out on a limb and say that they're a 5th ranked side when we talk about the power rankings, going up a whopping 10 positions since round 5. We didn't see any of them last week because of the bye, but the way that they've managed to turn their season around is absolutely phenomenal. I just can't really fathom how they've been able to do so. Is 5th spot maybe a little bit too high? I don't know. They have won 4 in a row, so that is power rankings based on form. They look like a finals quality side, but the way they've been getting the wins, the opposition they've been playing, I can't really have the Dogs above them after they've lost their last 2, to be honest. In all those 4 games, right, I tipped against Fremantle. I tipped the Hawks against the Dockers. I then tipped Sydney thinking they'd respond, but no, the Dockers got their first win at the SCG in over 10 years. I then tipped the Cats thinking they'd get the job done against the Dockers. They proved me wrong again, scoring over 100. And then to back things up again, beating one of the premiership favourites at the MCG in the Demons is just extremely impressive. They're back, the Dockers. They're just a lot better the way they've been going about it. Their method. Luke Jackson's gone from one of the worst trades to one of the best trades. But I'm going to leave him here in 5th. So just let me know what you think about that 5th position. It's a bit of an interesting one. It's a left field one, but I'm going to leave it there. Alrighty, my top 4, we've got in 4th position, Melbourne. They've gone down 2 spots from the last power rankings. They haven't been overly impressive, to be honest with you. They scraped over the line against Gold Coast. A good first half against Hawthorn. Terrible second half, to be honest with you. Average against Port Adelaide, average against Freo, and a win against Carlton, but average again. They've been average. They certainly haven't been at their best, but you know, the season is a marathon, not a sprint, and it's, I guess, better to be finding your form late in the season than what they did earlier on when they were started 10-0 in 2022. So it's not too much of a concern for Melbourne. I think they're certainly able to turn things around and still be a chance for the flag, but yeah, they just haven't been quite at their best. Alrighty, we'll move next to 3rd position on the power rankings. Not really moving since I last did this, and we've got Brisbane. The Lions are one of the powerhouses of the competition at the moment. Clearly, I think the 3rd ranked side in it. But they've just been doing what they need to be doing. The Lions just getting some convincing results against the Blues, against the Bombers, against the Suns, and all those games they didn't really look like losing at the end of the game. But that Adelaide game, honestly, if they were actually taking their chance in that 3rd quarter, especially not kicking 9-10 behinds in a quarter, they might have won that game. I didn't think they were too disgraced. I think Adelaide just wanted to win that game more, which they did. Not a concern for the Lions. They're going pretty well. 3rd spot at the moment in the power rankings ahead of the bye. They're looking like a side that could threat for the finals. Sorry, the flag, I should say. Now, I think it's a pretty clear top 2 at the moment. 2nd spot, again, going up 4 more positions. We've got Port Adelaide, and wow, have they been impressive. They haven't dropped a game since round 4, where I actually had them like 13th or 14th after the first power rankings video. They're now 2nd, and they haven't lost a game since then. Like, they've just been incredible. We'll go through what they've been able to achieve. A good win against the Bombers by 5. A smash against North. A statement victory against the D's at home. But the fact that they haven't dropped a game in this time, they've just been continuing to get the wins, just shows the desire this season and the hunger to just go all the way. And that game against Hawthorn, their ability to score, man, goodness gracious me, over 100 points in the first half, that's just a sign of a really dangerous football club that I think can go all the way. Yeah, Port are just doing everything right at the moment. Zaki Butters, one player I just want to point out, having a career best season, on track, maybe even for the Brownlow. He is certainly helping their cause. So is players such as Horn Francis, Connor Rose in the middle. The Power are just doing really well. Like, at the moment, they're looking like a top side. Should finish top 4. They're the second best side behind, I think we all know who. first place, everyone knew it before they even clicked onto this video. It has to be Collingwood. It just has to be Collingwood. They just don't look like getting beaten at the moment. It doesn't matter who they play against the Pies. They just seem to get those results and pick them up. They've been super impressive. They've got so many role plays. They haven't got a single player, in my opinion, that has actually gotten worse. I think every player on their list, if I'm not mistaken, from the looks of it, has gotten better and gelled as a side. Craig McRae is doing a phenomenal job this season, and I really don't see any other side at the moment stealing the flag off the Pies. Yes, it could happen. Yes, they could dip. But right now, they're doing everything right, and they are sitting really pretty at top spot 11-1. Yeah, very deserving of that number 1 spot. A very easy number 1 spot to place at the moment. They've been up there for so long, and they look to continue to stay at the number 1 spot for quite some time, the Pies. Alrighty, anyways, well, that'll wrap things up. Let me know what you think of what I had to say in this video. What teams that I have too high, what teams that I have too low, and drop your power rankings down below in the comment section. But yeah, anyways, appreciate everyone for watching the video and all the support. Tips obviously out tomorrow. Check out the Goal King Challenge, and yeah, I'll see you very soon in the next one.